we've just received word that Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul is on her way, so she will be here today. There's a host of speakers that are appearing this morning, all diversified groups in education and in background. It's going to be a great program. They'll speak for about 40 minutes, and then they'll rally together to march. The march is about a mile long, goes down the main street, and then turns and goes past the First Presbyterian Church, where the first call for women's equality was made in 1923. Then they'll continue down around and come back up to Main Street and end up at the Seneca Falls Community Center, where there'll be another round of speakers in the afternoon. It's been a really interesting experience getting to see the behind-the-scenes work on this march. There are a committee of women that are all volunteers and give their hearts and souls to putting this together. This year they put together a group of concepts that they want to march for, that they're dedicating this march to. If you haven't seen it already, we created that in a video on WNYmedia.net. There's a special page where that video can be seen, and the women state the reasons that they're marching. The speakers this afternoon are all women who are related to the causes for this march this year. The environment, equality, all the way across the board. I'm trying to remember, it's escaping me right now because between the noise and the people, it's a little hard to think, but you'll see that as we go through. This is the first anniversary of the march from last year, Women March. Last year in Seneca Falls, there were 10,000 people. As we all remember, in D.C., there ended up being 500,000 people. There were 680 marches in 2017 in the United States and 137 worldwide. It's not too much different this year. There are 400 to 500 across the United States and 100 worldwide. So definitely the passion of women and of people across this United States to march for equity on so many levels is still strong. I'm going to step aside and let you watch and listen for a few minutes. We'll be back. This is Christina App, Women March in Seneca Falls on WNYmedia, sponsored by GCW Capital.
The fact that women are marching for not only themselves, I would assume, but other women who maybe haven't had some of the advantages that they've been able to have. We see the courage that it takes for a woman to step up and pursue their careers, their businesses. The Women's March resonates with us because candidly it's a way of giving back, right, to those that we do business with, giving back to that community.
And imagine this, on the morning after the government has shut down. I'm Betty Bear. I'm one of the organizers of Women March in Seneca Falls, and I'm here to welcome you, to cheer you, and to thank you for all the signs and the glory this morning. 1 year ago, over 10,000 of us gathered here, joining with over 5 million people marching in 999 marches in all 50 states, in 92 countries, and on all 7 continents. That was the beginning. This is now. Today we convene again here on this historical spot where a Women's Rights Convention held 170 years ago reminds us time and again of the power of speech, the power of stepping forward to redress injustice and inequality, the power of listing and naming our grievances, and the power of people to convene and to take action to redress injustice. This year's momentum builds on a year of actions that together have said loud and clear, we will not stand for rollbacks on freedom, liberty, and rights. Today we have more women running for office than ever before. There's renewed momentum for upcoming midterm elections. Power to the polls. There are actions on immigration, reproductive, gender, and environmental rights. Nevada ratified the ERA. Imagine that. And here we are, moving on the campaign of the Me Too and Time's Up movements. We join with others to create inclusive and peaceful efforts to refuse injustice and to ensure candidates for office demonstrate records centered on justice and equality. Here on this First Amendment space at Women's Rights National Historical Park, we exercise our First Amendment rights to free speech and to assemble peaceably. We peacefully march and rally today. Welcome to Seneca Falls. Welcome to Women March. I have a letter to read to you from Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Dear friends, it's a privilege to send greetings to everyone attending the Women March in Seneca Falls. As you stand today in the historic Seneca Falls, the home of the first women's rights convention in our nation, we remember Elizabeth Cady Stanton and other champions of women's rights. I am grateful to everyone attending today's march for your dedication to this important fight. It is necessary for us to take pause on days like this and commemorate our accomplishments, both past and present. While we have come a long way, we certainly have not come far enough. I urge you to turn the enthusiasm and passion shared today into action and continue to stand up, fight hard, and speak out until all our voices are heard. I am confident each of your efforts and dedication will bring us one step closer to every woman being treated with the respect, dignity, and equality we deserve. Please accept my best wishes for a wonderful event. Sincerely, Kirsten Gillibrand, United States Senator. I want to introduce now my colleague Maureen Quigley, leader of ceremonies and Women March in Seneca Falls organizer.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Maureen Quigley. Welcome to Seneca Falls. I am your leader of ceremonies for today's events. I am a member of Women March in Seneca Falls and an organizer for Women March in Seneca Falls 2018 March and Rally. I am thrilled and deeply honored to be here among all of you amazing persisters in the town that is the birthplace of women's rights in America. My primary role as an organizer for our marches has been with social media. I feel like I virtually know many of you already. And it's so wonderful to be able to see you face to face. You are all amazing. Thank you from the bottoms of our hearts for joining us on this national park site, so aptly called First Amendment Declaration Park. We deeply appreciate your dedication to be here. We offer a special thank you to those of you who organized buses, to the Seneca Falls Police Department, to New York State Troopers, to Women's Rights National Historical Park Rangers, to all volunteers, to 19 campaign donors, and to our event sponsors, Auburn Public Theater, Cafe 19, the CNY chapter of the National Organization for Women, Earth Mother Sacred Drum Circle, Finger Lakes One, Finger Lakes Woman, Emma Bauso Photography, Friends of Women's Rights National Historical Park, Generations Bank, Geneva Women's Assembly, AAUW of Rochester, National Women's Hall of Fame, photography by Kathy Collins, Sandra Shutter Fine Art and Design, Seneca Falls Business Association, Seneca Falls Central School District, the Gould Hotel, Unity Street Band, Women in Leadership and Learning, and Women Made Products. Also, please welcome and join me in thanking the 5 American Sign Language interpreters who are volunteering to be with us for the entire day. And finally, to the Habitat for Humanity of Seneca County, thank you for your generator. Thank you for making such a difference in our ability to provide today the very best experience possible. In early December of 2016, our lead organizer, Melina Carnicelli, asked me if I would attend a gathering of women who were organizing a march in Seneca Falls. This march would be a sister march to the incredible March on Washington in January of 2017. I had already purchased my ticket to go to Washington, but my curiosity put me in my car and drove me to meet her in Seneca Falls. I left that meeting with feelings of elation and purpose, and after the second meeting decided to stay right here in my own backyard and work with this amazing group of women. The rest is her story. Especially to those of you who were with us here last year. 1 year later, we are here together again with all of you to stand together, to march together, to keep our voices raised, and to say, we persist. We persist for women's equality and for equal rights for all. We persist to end systemic racism and sexism. For environmental justice and equal pay. We persist to eradicate violence against women. We persist for gender parity in elected office. We persist for LGBTQIA rights, for immigrant rights, and we persist for disability rights. We persist for the passage of the proposed Equal Rights Amendment, and for a woman's right to choose. So that there is never anyone making a decision about our bodies but ourselves. We persist because we are strong. We are empowered. And in the face of social injustice and threats to our freedoms, we persist because we must. Every woman, every man, and every child here today is a persister. As we stand here today on this sacred ground, in this little town where our suffragist foremothers started a movement that has become a force that will never be stopped. I say to you again, welcome to Seneca Falls. And now we are pleased to have Arlette Miller Smith with us to perform a poem adaptation called A Gathering of Women. It is said, when your life teaches, your heart sings, and your soul writes, then you have become acquainted with the passions of Arlette Miller Smith. Dr. Miller Smith is Associate Professor of English and Director of the Oh, yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do. She is the Director of the African American Studies minor at St. John Fisher College, Rochester, New York. I give you Dr. Arlette Miller Smith.
Thank you. 2 seconds. Say hello to your neighbor. All right, all right. It's all right here. Are you ready? You're really ready? You think you're ready? So let's go. The women have gathered. Look at you. Women have come here yet again to this birthplace where women have gathered for over 170 years. And as women will and women can, we will take over any territory. So let's R-I-G-H-T, a brand brave new history. But first, let's call the roll, because Ruby D, God bless her soul, says that's the way that women talk and walk, unleash and unfold. So, calling all women, calling all sisters, calling all women, calling all persisters. Calling all marchers, calling all insisters. All right, first wave. Katie Stanton, Mott, McClintock, Hunt, Wright, Truth, Anthony, Tubman, Jemison, and Jeffrey. Second wave, Steinem, Lord, Friedan, Mankiller, Walker, Women of Now, SNCC women, era women, and they are all present. Calling third wave, that's you, and you, and you, and you. You, with the sign that says women's rights are human rights. That's you, the one with the babbling baby in the blue buggy. And that's you, the one with the cane but the wisdom of words and worlds. We are all persisters, and we are here calling all women. Calling fourth wavers, Yeah, we know you got it going on and that you're coming up, you're taking names and playing video games while you are talking and FaceTiming and texting and tweeting around the world to the other girls on fire. Calling on women to steal away to this historic place. Let's have this meeting in March, face to face. Look at the facts and determine your pace. We want first, second, third world women, women outside the power structure, working women, welfare women, women who feel alienated and isolated, women who are all frustrated, women, questioning women, tired of being penalized. Come on, y'all, and help us bridge these gaps. Racial, cultural, sexual, political, and generational. Women want action, not veneration. Now is the time for convolution. Let's all march here and find solutions for how we are going to make that revolution or die. Or die. Like Harriet said, who didn't take no stuff, wasn't scared of nothing neither. You be the Harriet who didn't take no stuff. She said, you came into this world to be no slave, and you ain't gonna stay one neither. So now, wait a minute. Let's call out the real women. Will the real women step forward? Are you present? I didn't hear anybody say it. So here we go. Real women. Thin women. Stout women. Short women. Tall women. Young women. Not so young women. Flat-chested women. Big bosomed women. Women with blue eyes, green eyes, brown eyes. Women with silky hair, curly hair, bleached hair, permed and graying hair. The women have gathered as one constellation, and the world is taking notice that women are warriors. Always have been, always will be. The world is taking notice that women birth babies and revolutions. The women have gathered. The women have gathered. You saw them, the freedom women in Montgomery, Alabama, and Greensboro, North Carolina, Rochester, New York in 1964. They were there. And like you, Kathy Hogo, Quigley, Bayer, Hercules, and the lovely. Like you, they said ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody. And then they said, hey, y'all, we got your back. We're gonna keep on walking and keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Watch out, world, watch out, because the 2018 National Women's March Against Sexism, #MeToo, against racism, #Say Her Name, against LGBTQIA people. Yeah, against 80 cents from the dollar. #Lily Ledbetter. All right, the women warriors done gathered right here today. Calling the roll one more time. Are you with me? Are you with me? Here we go. I want you to get serious with me for just a minute, because we need to call on our flawless future women, like my students, Erin and Madison, right there, like our grands, and like those who are even yet waiting in the womb. So let women of colors with courage let you say so. So here we go, future women. You are our cream. Straight cream mixed with buttercream. You are tan, smooth cocoa tan, dusty tan, in-flight tan, and you are brown. Brown like the arms of warrior trees, brown like fertile fields unfurrowed and unplowed, and you are white. Alabaster white, eggshell white, corn silk, vanilla cream, pearl and linen beige white. And with your coming, we stroked your tight-skinned young faces. We touched the center of your tears. We stretched your muscles into smiles. And you danced like queens to the rhythm of our joy. And then we blended the chords of a symphony song. Woo! Jesus! Help me, Holy Ghost. And we charted the trajectory of your dreams. The witness women who gathered here in 1848, they say that they know you well. All of us women, we stay alive for you. We tighten the drum for you. We open the books for you. We hand the gavel to you. We move the pen for you. We march here in equality for you. And now your hands must continue to change this mess. Now, persisters, insisters, resisters. When I say continue, you say continue. When I raise my hand, that is. When I raise my hand, I got excited about persisting. When I raise my hand, you say continue. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Continue. 1, 2, 3. Continue. On the day of your birth, we will you to break dense walls of poverty and to loose all of these chains of ignorance, and so that you and us could march here as free women. And so you continue to let your eloquence elevate people to heights they could only imagine. Continue to remind people that each is as good as the other. No one is beneath or above the other. Continue to take the hand of the despised, walk proudly into the high street, because other young women will see you there and they will be encouraged to do likewise. Continue to ignore no vision which comes to enlarge your range and increase your spirit and your gifts. Continue, 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 continue. Because we know you well. We know that you can fly. We know that you can touch the sky. Think about it every night and day. Spread wings, fly away. We know that you can soar. See you run through closed and open doors. You can fly, you can fly, you can fly. Persist.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Mimi McHale, a native of Auburn, New York. Mimi McHale has been a singer-songwriter since her early teens, performing with bands both in the U.S. and internationally. She is currently employed as a speech-language pathologist, witnessing firsthand the healing power of the voice. So let us stand together today as Mimi performs a song created from Maya Angelou's well-known poem, Still I Rise. We are calling 911. Evidently there is a medical emergency. Back up in here, back there. Okay, clear a path. It's right back up there by the snowbank. Clear a path, please, on the side of the bleachers. We are calling 911.
There's a doctor. They should go towards the bed.
There's a doctor. If there's any medical personnel, someone is passed out. Could go back there.
She is. Make way. The doctor's going.
Please make way. There is a doctor. Are we all set? We're good? Okay. Everybody, can we send healing energy and thoughts and prayers?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. I give you Mimi McHale.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this incredible event. Remember that as we raise our voices today, we also contribute to raising the collective human consciousness so that love and not fear will be the guiding force in all of the decision-making process. I give you this interpretation from the late, great Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, will rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Yeah. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope singing high, still I rise. Hey, does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Do you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by our soulful cries? You may shoot me with your words, and you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, we'll rise. Still we'll rise, just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of time, just like hope
Thank you, Mimi. It's my high honor to introduce Wagalagutsta to bless our gathering. Wagalagutsta, also known as Mama Bear, is Bear Clan mother of the Mohawk Nation. She advocates for mothers and babies to live safely in a just world.
Sega Swagwego, Wagilagutsta, you get Swagatsununi, no one is allowed to Jigan with Wagedo there. Very honored to be here, and wow, I don't know if I can top off these two women. There's nothing like a black woman to just say it the way it is. There's nothing like a white woman to just add the flowers on top. And here I am, a red woman. So when I think about this gathering today, and as I was here last year, I bring memory to my grandmothers that continue to remain invisible in the history of this country. And as much as you celebrate Seneca Falls as the birthplace of women's suffering, I recognize it as the living place of Seneca women that were way here before colonial women were. And they could not have conceived the birthplace without having watched my grandmothers in action. And it was through their voices and through their action that they seen a society that was somewhat different from the ones they left in Europe. They seen women to the right of their own bodies. They seen women birth babies without pain. They seen the property of their own making theirs and their children theirs. And she had incredible voice in her governance. She could call for war and she could call for peace. And it is through her uterine voice that raised leaders. And if I was Trump's clan mother, I'd recall and veto his position today. He's not a man that's worthy to be a leader. So in commemorating this day, I remember my grandmothers in this very sacred land upon which was here way before contact. And last year I said, and I challenged the United States citizens, if you're not happy with your country, rescind your U.S. citizenship. Because it is the very Constitution that's killing you. And it is also, I want to remind you, a Constitution written to only bring prosperity and glory to 1% of the population, which is rich white men. It never even included its own women in its infancy, in its original writing. It left the women out. That's why this was born, Seneca Falls. So what I'm saying is I challenge you. Rescind your U.S. citizenship. What are they going to do? There ain't enough ships in the world to ship everybody back to where they're originally from. That would be a strong statement. And I say, you know, as government is still playing cowboys and Indians, and today, yous are all the Indians with me. And you know, it's a day that, you know, I can't believe that within my time, I would see such a power moving across the landscape. And this is the reason, you know, in an indigenous world, there is no argument that the earth is a woman. And that women are of the earth. So let's not forget the true power that we hold. We are in a power to be contended with. Absolutely. We wield more power than we know. And so as I sat in a car and I drove my good friend Sally here today, and she has taught me a lot about her grandmothers, about Elizabeth Caddistat and Matilda Jocelyn Gage and everything that they learned from my grandmothers. We renew that friendship. And I recognize how women are still suffering. But I also recognize this one thing: in the United States and in Canada, Indigenous women are the most suffered. Because there's over 5,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women across the United States and Canada, and the numbers continuing to increase. Why target that population? And I'll tell you why. Because in the laws of this country, the Indigenous law, the land belongs to the women. It cannot be ceded or sold without their permission. And this country has been fraudulently bought because we never signed on to the sale of this country. But what we did do was we wrote treaties. And the treaties weren't to give us Indians rights, it was to give you permission to live here. So to cap this off and to braid together the reverberating sound of women's voices going into the universe, I'm going to invite my good sister, Junie Bear, to come over here and sing a song so that you hear the voice of Indigenous women and mothers who have suffered and who continue to remain invisible. But before I close with that, I just want to say to all of these women wearing the white or the pink hats, I didn't know what they meant, but Sally quite informed me what they were. I want to say, here's mine. And I don't shave mine for anybody.
My sister Louise always does this to me. She puts me on the spot. I'm going to sing a song that was written by some of the women in our community in Akwesasne, the Akwesasne women singers. And it's a song that we sing to honor our young women when they go through their rites of passage ceremony. So the song, in our language, it means that women have power, women have good medicine, and women have strength. Yungwani gulio ne yang yongwe yongwa nungwa tselio ne yang yongwe yowe yowe yungwa satstan tselayo ne yang yongwe hayo 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 weya we hana yo weya he weya he weya he we hana yo weya he weya he weya he de yonde letselane ne yagyungwe ne yagyungwe.
Our convener for today's rally is the Sally Roche Wagner. Awarded one of the first doctorates in this country for work in women's studies and a founder of one of the first college-level women's studies programs in the United States. Dr. Sally Roche Wagner has taught women's studies courses for 47 years. She currently serves as an adjunct faculty member in the Renee Crown University Honors Program, Syracuse University, and the St. John Fisher Executive Leadership Program. She is a public scholar with Humanities New York. I give you Sally Roche Wagner.
Welcome to the revolution. Yes, we are in a revolution. Well, granted, it's hard to tell where you are when you're in the middle of a revolution. We may be looking up and saying, yeah, but look at what he's doing. We may not look around and see that we are the numbers. We are the power. He's on a mighty thin perch up there, and we have the numbers to topple him. And him isn't one individual. The man who happens to be squatting, probably illegally, on the perch. He is just the ugly representative of an ugly power system, which is showing its true face through him. Much of the world has been ruled for a very long time by a system of power and greed, a system that has institutionalized the oppression and systematic violation of our bodies and the body of our mother, the earth. That system has reached a critical point. We now know that it's not sustainable. The climate catastrophe in its beginning stages has already wreaked havoc on our country and the world. It will only worsen if we keep on this same course. The inevitable result, if we don't stop, will be the end of life on this planet, an environment that can no longer sustain life. This is perhaps the most important crossroads in the history of the world. Will life survive? It's up to us. In fear, some people strike out, lash at each other, and look to a savior who will dictate what we should do. That is not us. We are the ones who are saying stop. Stop your lies. Stop your destruction of the air we breathe and the water we drink and the food we eat. Stop the destruction of the other beings who live with us on this planet. Stop stuffing yourselves with things while others are hungry. Stop dividing us into groups, saying some are worthy and some are not. Stop your violation of our bodies and stop your violation of the body of our mother, the earth. The fate of the world hangs in the balance right now. Some countries like ours are moving in the direction of fascism. But in each country, there are masses of people like us who are resisting, revolting, bringing in a new world order. If we fight the powers of destruction long enough and hard enough in solidarity, we can join the march toward democracy of civilized countries like Iceland, the first country in the world to make it illegal to pay men more than women. We can take leadership from those among us, like the African American women who have consistently voted smart. Recently defeating a pedophile in Alabama. We can take direction from the Haudenosaunee and other indigenous women who have lived for over 1,000 years in a woman-centered world committed to maintaining peace and equality. They are still here, still doing it, despite our government and church's greatest efforts to destroy their founding principles. And these wise indigenous women are amazingly and generously willing to teach us. We can join with the women of Poland who have lived for a year under an alt-right government who write us the following. Dear women of America and the world, your fears are well-founded, but you are not alone. We must not allow for fascism and other mistakes of the past to be put forward as solutions to the challenges of today. It is our unshakable conviction that women's rights are human rights. And a future built on democracy, which means a respect for all human rights, is the only one that we will participate in. A year ago, when we met here at the sacred site of the beginning of women's organized resistance to carry on the work of our foremothers, many of us felt angry, frightened, and alone. Those feelings transformed to hope as we saw how massive our numbers were. We joined millions of women and men marching for peace and justice in all 50 states and all 7 continents. We knew then we were part of making history, one of the largest political demonstrations in the history of the world. In the last year, we have acted on that strength. We have finally reached a critical mass where we have the collective power to name behaviors that have always been unacceptable, but were culturally accepted. We now have claimed our collective voice. Me Too is now no more. Together, we have toppled titans, and women with celebrity and power have stood in solidarity with women who live lives far more vulnerable. As we reshape morality and wrestle sexual behavior from the power system in which it's been embedded, things will be messy for a while. Revolutions are not for the faint-hearted, but we will find appropriate consequences for each point on the spectrum of sexual violation, from catcalling to rape. And with our collective voice and the support of our male allies, we will end the whole spectrum of violence against women. Remember, there are 2 things we got to remember about our revolution. One is that we're going to get our asses kicked, and the other is that we're going to win!
Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul really needs no introduction, because her persistent good and important work on behalf of New York's women and girls sends out a continuous beacon of honor across the state and the nation that shouts women's equality. As the highest-ranking female elected official in New York State, Lieutenant Governor Hochul is committed to inspiring a new generation of women to enter public service or aspire to leadership within their chosen field through the Women Lead Initiative. The Lieutenant Governor spearheads the administration's key efforts to advance gender equality, including the Enough is Enough campaign, to combat sexual assault on college campuses, and efforts to eliminate the wage gap. In 2016, she was elected chair of New York State's Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission. We are thrilled to have her with us today in historic Seneca Falls to highlight this gathering of thousands of Purse sisters on the first anniversary of the 700 historic women's marches of 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's my honor on behalf of Women March in Seneca Falls 2018 to welcome Kathy Hochul, Lieutenant Governor of New York State.
Thank you so much. I feel the warmth of this crowd so much, I don't even want to wear a coat anymore, okay? We're tough. Women are tough. First of all, can we give a huge round of applause to the organizers of this event who put their heart and soul into making this happen? What an incredible group of women. And when they put their mind to something, they make it happen. Second of all, you are going to hear from one of the most influential voices in our government, and that is our mayor of Rochester, lovely Warren. I want to recognize her. She is an incredible leader and inspiration to me as well. And to the other people who've joined here, I know that Assemblyman Harry Bronson is here and so many others. But before I get started, folks, can I just make a quick observation about something that happened at the stroke of midnight? Okay. Ponder this. Does anybody really think that if women were running Washington, we would have shut down our government? Not in a million years, folks. It wouldn't have happened. That's my first observation. Second is, okay, I pull up, I see a closed sign on this national park, and I say, well, what about all the other national parks, the ones out west? You know, Yellowstone, where Yogi Bear lives, all those red state parks, are they closed too? No. Somehow, our park, where we're gathering today to honor women, is closed, okay? Somebody's got some explaining to do. Somebody's got to explain that to me. I'm just saying. All right. Now that I've got that off my chest, and I think you all agree with me, right? All right. Getting tired of this, folks. You know, my mama used to say, and to the young women in the crowd, someday you'll actually be quoting your mothers. You don't think so yet? Okay. I never thought I'd be quoting my mom. But Mom used to say, for every action, there is a reaction. Okay. 1 year ago, we had an action. The inauguration of a president whose name I don't even want to have touch my lips, okay? But what was the reaction across the world? Women and enlightened men stood together and said, we're not going to take this. We're going to make sure that we come together and that our voices are joined as one. And what a powerful message a year ago. And to know that we've continued this just warms me like you would not believe. I'm so proud to be here. And I'll tell you something else. Last night, I was in Manhattan. I was joined by people who came from all over the country, young activists who came here to march in New York City. And they said, are you going to march with us, Lieutenant Governor? I said, heck no, I'm going to Seneca Falls, where it all began. It all began right here. It all began right here. And began it did. I have to tell you, I have come to Seneca Falls so many times for inspiration that I could probably vote here, but I won't. I came here at the beginning of 2017 when we launched a year of acknowledgement and celebration and a look back at the struggles of the women and the enlightened men who began in these very buildings 1848, 300 women and men came together. Can you imagine if they had social media? They would have had 100,000 people here at that time. But think about that. They came together, first time in our nation's history, and said no more. No more, no more. We are not going to take this. And if you read the words that are inscribed on these walls, you can feel the anger in these words they penned in that Declaration of Sentiments. They had already had it by 1848. They wanted it over. Okay, it took a little while to get some progress. But the point being is that marches elsewhere a year ago is nothing new to us in Seneca Falls. Our women and men took to the streets back then, and we began a march that went on for 70 years, fighting simply have the right to vote. And we won that right exactly 100 years ago. And as we talked about this event, at the beginning of the year, I spoke about the fact that we will look back at them and honor their legacy and give them credit for the trials and tribulations and how they're ostracized. And at the time, black women, women of color, still could not vote either. And there was something wrong with that, so our work was not finished. But they never gave up. They inspired us to continue on. And so today, I look back on this year, last year of 2017, and I asked the question to thousands of people all over the state at gatherings. And I said, yes, it's great to honor the legacy of these brave, audacious individuals who went against their families, their churches, the tides of their time and never gave up. But how do we measure up? What will our legacy be 100 years from now, when they celebrate the bicentennial of women winning the right to vote? How will we measure up and how will we be judged? And I didn't know that answer 1 year ago. But as 2017 ticked on and on and on, and more brave women came out of the shadows and spoke up and said, me too, it happened to me, and I want other people to stand together. I knew the answer to our question. We have had it. We say no more. It's over. It's over. It's over. No longer will women be degraded and dehumanized and discriminated against and harassed and assaulted simply because of their gender. We have stood up in 2017 and now into 2018, and this is a seismic societal shift in how women are going to be treated and how they view themselves and their own rights. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the legacy of America today. We are going to change, and we are not going to take the policies coming out of Washington. Just yesterday, a president who goes and says Roe v. Wade was wrong. That is a disgrace. And I'll tell you, here in New York, we love being first. Okay? And I kind of rubbed that into those young people from other states. I said, you want to know what it's like to live in a progressive place? Come to New York. 1848, we began the women's rights movement. 1917, 3 years ahead of the nation, we gave women the right to vote. 1970, 3 years before Roe v. Wade, we had the right to protect our bodies and have the right to choose here in the state of New York. 2011, 4 years ahead of the rest of the nation, we granted marriage equality because you should be able to marry the person you love. So I said to the young people from all these red states who are a little disparaged, a little discouraged, I said, you want hope? You come to New York. You see what we do here. You can breathe the blue air of our skies, okay? But take nourishment from this, because under Governor Cuomo and myself and our administration, we're going to continue being a beacon of hope for the rest of the nation. And that's why under this governor, we now have the most generous paid family leave program in America, bar none. It's here in New York. We have the strongest laws against sexual assault on campuses here in New York. We have the highest minimum wage, so single mothers trying to put bread on the table don't have to kill themselves to live above the poverty line. We now have a $15 minimum wage here in New York. And we are fighting discrimination. We are fighting inequality, and it's going to continue. So please send messages of hope to your friends who are not fortunate enough to call themselves New Yorkers. And know that we will continue the marches that began in these very hallowed grounds. That legacy is now on our shoulders. And 100 years from now, they will look at our time. They will talk about this gathering, and they will say, that's when it all changed. And congratulations to you for making history. Thank you very much.
Lovely Warren, recently re-elected to a second term as mayor of Rochester, New York, joins us today to address the gender disparity in elected offices throughout this country. While women make up almost 52% of the American population, only 20% of elected officials, on average, are women. As of July 2016, per the U.S. Conference of Mayors, of the 1,391 mayors of U.S. cities with populations over 30,000, only 263, or 19%, were women. Mayor Warren is here today to talk about why what we are doing is so important and why we need to support more women and minorities running for elected office. I give you Mayor Lovely Warren.
To the great organizers of this event. 1 year ago today, dark clouds of intolerance, hate, and injustice rolled over our nation's capital and across America. These clouds were seeded by a new president, one who radically different ideas than his predecessor, and one who I know many of us here today disagree with. However, I believe in the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Today, we are here all carrying a bright torch, one that was lit yesterday with flames containing particles of hope, of justice, of equality, of love. It was lit by those who came before us. The torches we carry today were lit 170 years ago, right here in Seneca Falls. Lit by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the brave women and men who made history by having the courage to stand and shine a bright light on equality. It was lit by Susan B. Anthony and 14 other women who were arrested in the great city of Rochester for having the audacity to vote. It was lit by the countless abolitionists like Sojourner Truth and Rochester's very own Frederick Douglass, who stood shoulder to shoulder with women who were gathered here as well. That flame was fueled by the LGBTQ sisters and brothers in their fight for gay rights, a movement that are proud to stand alongside in Rochester, New York. And just as we stand here today for women's rights, we must also stand alongside our immigrant neighbors in Rochester and cities all across America who live in sanctuary cities. That torch that was lit must remain lit, no matter where they come from or who they are. They have a right to live the American dream. It was mentioned earlier that I am the first woman mayor of the city of Rochester. guess it was uniquely designed that I would be elected 141 years to the very day that Susan B. Anthony and those brave women cast that illegal vote in Rochester. I count it an honor and a privilege to have been blessed to carry the torch that Susan B. Anthony lit. And you will never, ever forget all the things that they did to make our city, our country better. The torch that I carry today that was passed on from my grandparents who were sharecroppers in King Street, South Carolina, and from my father who was an immigrant from Trinidad. This torch I carry is one that drove out personal darkness and created the opportunity for freedom, the opportunity for equality, the opportunity for justice. This torch that we collectively carry together here today will be passed on to my daughter Taylor and to your daughters and your granddaughters for generations to come. I know we may have differences, but those differences should not define us as Americans. The way we treat each other should. We must respect each other. We must work with each other. We must love each other because love cripples hate. And let us also recognize that this year is the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s death. A murder intended to snuff out the bright flame for tomorrow. But we hold firm to those dreams and we will not let them die. I leave you with his thoughts that still burn bright today. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but we will remember the silence of our friends. And so, my friends, I tell you, let's not be silent. Let us indeed grab the torch and run brave and free, demanding equal pay for equal work, demanding better health care, demanding seats in the boardroom, demanding a place in the Hall of Justice, and yes, demanding a place in Washington, D.C. Let us stand strong together and hold these flames high and carry them forth into the future. Let us not allow them to be snuffed out because we are the light. We stand for freedom. We stand for hope. We stand for justice. And we stand for a better tomorrow. So my friends, I tell you, this is what democracy looks like. 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 This is what democracy looks like.
All right. And finally, with us today is a persister celebrating her 80th birthday. She mentioned a while ago. She mentioned a while ago to her family that one thing she never did in her life was march in a demonstration and carry a sign. Well, Nancy Berry is here today with her daughter, Lori Flannery, and her granddaughters, Megan, Amanda, Caitlin, and Kelsey, all carrying signs.
Happy birthday, Nancy, and thank you.
We don't value a client relationship based on the number of zeros after somebody's net worth or somebody's investment portfolio. We want people who want a better and brighter future and who actually care. I think my generation, and I'm in my mid-30s, and I think there's a perception out there that they don't qualify to speak to a professional advisor. We need to change that perception. We need to let people know that the earlier you start, the better.
This is what democracy looks like. 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 This is what democracy looks like.
Sponsored by GCW Capital. We're here at Women March Seneca Falls 2018. The speakers have just finished, and now the march is on, and it is on. Cheering, drums, chanting, and a lot of enthusiasm and positive energy walking down the street. Men, women, children. Signs, as you can see, lots of signs. Everything from homemade to professionally, graphically, beautifully done. The speakers were inspiring. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul called out the president and the government for shutting us down, which brought a great cheer. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. I think what's really interesting is to see the diversity of age in this crew. There are small children and 80-year-olds. There was a woman, if you were watching the broadcast earlier, an 80-year-old woman who told her family that she'd never participated in a march, and that was something she regretted. So they brought her, today is her birthday, with her daughter and her 3 granddaughters, and she is marching in this Seneca women march today, or I'm sorry, women march at Seneca Falls today. Marchers are spreading the entire width of the street and go on for as far as you can see. It's got to be at least 4 miles as far as you can see them forward to front to back. They're headed down, they come up the main street, which is Water Street, and then they're going down and they'll pass the Presbyterian Church, the First Presbyterian Church, where of course the first call for women's equality was made by Alice Paul. Then they'll go down and go around the block and come back up the main street and then end up down at the Seneca Falls Community Center, where there will be another slate of speakers to talk about the things that this march is dedicated to this year, which is gender equality, racial equality, parity in the workplace, the right for women to choose and have a say over their own bodies. Now, there's a lot. The word revolution has been a theme today, going through the speakers who spoke, talking about revolution from the past and present and going forward to the future. There was the woman who spoke first was a professor from St. John Fisher College. She's a professor of women's studies, and she was very clear in calling out the young women and the women yet born to stand up and take forward everything that was started here at Seneca Falls in the 1800s and is continuing here with these marches now. Her name is Arlette Miller Smith. She's an associate professor and program director of African American Studies and Women and Gender Studies at St. John Fisher. And she was stirring. She spoke, she sang, she rallied, she made the crowd come alive. She was followed by a woman named Mimi McHale, who's a jazz singer, and she took Maya Angelou's poem and sang it, called Still I Rise, and again put a spin on it and put her own styling in it that brought cheers from the crowd for the whole time she sang. It went on from there to highlight a woman named Mama Bear, who represents the Mohawk tribes in this area, and her call for people to give up their citizenship. As she said, there ain't enough boats in the world to take us all out of this country if we give up our citizenship and take a stand. She brought a cheer with that. And then she brought some pretty interesting looks from men in the crowd when she said, rather than a pussy hat, she had a white fur hat on, and it was representing the same thing, and she didn't shave it for anybody. And there were a lot of interesting looks from the men in the crowd when she brought that line up. As I said, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul finished up, followed by the mayor of Rochester, Mayor Lovely. She again called for women to step forward. Lovely Warren, she's just been reelected for her second term. She's the first woman mayor of Rochester and the first African-American woman mayor of Rochester. And she was elected the first time on the day that women were arrested in Rochester for voting when they did not have the right to vote. So she called that out and was very proud of that fact. So as we said, now this is the march moving through the town of Seneca Falls. As you can see, it started about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, and is still, we don't see the end of it. Women, men, children. Maureen, can we talk to you for a minute? Do you have a minute to talk to us? Come on over here. So this is Maureen Quigley with us. She is one of the organizers of Women March Seneca Falls. She was also the, you called it an interesting name, what you did today.
Leader of ceremonies.
Leader of ceremonies. That was a very specific verbiage. What was it about that term that you wanted to use it?
To be honest with you, that was the term that Melina Carnicelli chose, and I never thought about it. I just...
Master of Ceremonies, right?
It sounded good to me, so
yeah. Right, it was a good replacement for Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah, it was.
So, here's your march.
It's amazing.
What do you think?
I'm so grateful and proud of all these people that just persisted, and they're all here to stand together. It's awesome.
You thanked people for coming today. Why did you do that? Why are you thanking them?
Because we all need every single one of us to stand together and to be collective, and there's power in numbers.
You have a son who lives with you, and his name is Hank,
Yes.
and he's the love of your life.
He is.
But he also is physically challenged.
He is.
And one of the things you talk about in why you march this year is to challenge so that there will no longer be discrimination against people who do have disabilities.
Yes.
What does that mean to you? How do you fight for that?
Well, on a personal level, I fought for his rights for the past 27 years. So it's been a pretty, keep your own corner tidy
Right.
deal for me. And I just feel as he gets older and I get more time to spread my wings and try to spread the message and do what I can on the bigger level for all, rights of people who are marginalized.
What do you think a march like this proves? By the end of the day, people have spoken, they've cheered, they've walked through the streets. How does it change anything?
I think it changes things by, powers that be, seeing the numbers, people getting excited and getting reignited to continue another year of activism, because that's what we've done since last year. I think it's really a reigniting and an empowering experience.
A lot of people were saying, well, why? Last year Trump was elected, it was important to come out. Why are they continuing to do it? Why are people coming back? Why do you have these people for miles and miles and miles again?
I think because of what I said. I think because people are just saying, look, we're not done. We want to show you that we're not done, and we need to come together and stand strong. And again, to reignite, to stay excited, to stay empowered.
Great. Maureen Quigley, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Job well done.
Thank you so much, Christina. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Talk to you later.
Okay. So again, as you can see, this march is endless. It just keeps coming. And little ones, that's what kind of thrills you, is to see the younger generation, kids who really probably have absolutely no idea what it means to be discriminated against. They don't have jobs. They haven't experienced the inability to vote. They don't have any of those experiences. They live in a world that's much different, thanks to the women before them that have fought. But the good thing is, hopefully they will value what they're learning here and take it forward and continue on. Here's a baby in a stroller. Awesome. As the marchers come through, the chants change. They've been everything from Trump's got to go to this is what democracy looks like, love, not hate. I mean, it's a really diverse cheer. Hi, would you like to talk to us?
For sure.
What's your name?
My name is Travis Sturfey.
Travis, where do you live?
I live in Watkins Glen, New York.
So why are you here?
Well, I'm here with my wife and my daughters and my sons and my mother because our country's headed in such a crazy and dangerous direction in the past year. There were folks who don't typically come out to rallies and make our politics public, but our country's in a place right now that I really feel the need to come out and join a movement like this and show my children that the things that our leader is doing with our nation now, the direction that he's taking this country, is not something that we support and something that we should stand up against.
So how does this change anything, being here today and doing this?
I think being here today shows the power in numbers. In this little town of Seneca Falls, this really important town of Seneca Falls, there are thousands of people who are gathered here today. And we're but one of many cities across the country where people are standing up and saying that we're sick and tired of the direction that this president is leading our nation. We have a government that's shut down at the moment. We have divisive politics. This is the United States of America. And we've been divided so much in the past year that we really need to do more to bring people together like this.
Well, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So So as you can see, I don't know if you can get this shot, Mark, of this child in a wheelchair. One of the reasons people are marching is to fight for rights for disabled people. And there are disabled people in this march, despite the fact that they can't march technically, but their families, their friends, their caregivers bring them and make sure that they participate. Here's got little kids in strollers. The colors, if you can see the flags going by, the colors of suffrage that mark the suffrage movement are purple, gold, and white. And this town is filled with the flags and the colors. Women are wearing purple, men are wearing purple. It was encouraged to wear those three colors and also to add red this year. And you're seeing a lot of it, along with the pink pussy hats that started out the march in 2017. Hey, ladies, would you talk to us for a minute? We're Western New York Media. We're on Facebook Live right now. We've been live with the march all morning. I'd just like to know...
Terrific. I'd love to.
Thank you. What's your name?
Beth Prentice.
Where are you from, Beth?
Ithaca.
You have seen the world change for women in dramatic ways.
Yes, I have.
That younger women have no idea what it was like before to think about what it could be in the future. Why do you come to this march? Why does it matter to march in these women marches?
Oh, I think it matters a tremendous amount. First of all, we have to remember that women are at least half the world's population. We need freedom of choice. We need education. We need a different kind of government that we have in the U.S. right now. I feel very strongly about it. We had come so far from the world we grew up in the 50s and 60s when we became of age to now when we're still struggling for these same rights. It's unthinkable to us how far we've gone backwards.
Why do you think we have gone backwards? Why? One of the things I wonder about a lot is the fact that young girls don't necessarily know how we fought for rights in the 60s and 70s and what it took to get the parity that we do have to any extent in pay in the workplace and places like that. How do we make sure that they understand that and want to go forward? Because we can't keep doing it, right? We have to have the younger generation come forward.
My granddaughter is here. My 17-year-old granddaughter is here. And her generation is very keen on this whole issue. They're working very hard for it. They have seen the rights that they have, and when I talk with them, they know the rights I did not have. So I think they're very encouraged by this kind of marching and being able to express their feelings and their point of view.
Did you march last year?
Yes.
Is this year any different in any way, and how?
I would say people are less, well, I don't quite know. I think people here are charged up, but I think mostly people are quite depressed.
How do we change that?
I think we got to keep doing more of this, and we got to get these 2018 elections with far more Democrats in the House.
Thanks for your time today. Enjoy the march.
You too. Bye.
Okay, so I believe we are going to move down to the community center so that when the march comes to the community center and the new speakers are up, we're ready to bring that to you. It will probably...
If I had one piece of financial planning advice to give to any woman, it would be your questions are legitimate, and they should be asked. And if it doesn't cut to the point of interest of the person alleging to want to be your financial planner, pick another financial planner.
Thank you, Maureen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Did you know that according to the CDC, in 2015, 1 in 5 adults in the United States had some form of disability? That is about 19% of the entire population. Those 1 in 5 people are part of every social, economic, racial, and religious demographic. And they have lives and identities beyond being disabled. So when we talk about women's rights, civil rights, and human rights, we need to make sure the rights of people with disabilities are included within all those conversations. So I am one in over 56 million people who have a disability in the United States. Born in 1968, in my lifetime I've seen positive change in disability rights, but I have also had to overcome many barriers. It wasn't until the fall of 1975, when I was almost 7 years old, when I was able to attend school with my peers. Because in 1973, when I was to start school, my parents were informed that they were not ready for me. There was no accessible transportation or ramps. Therefore, I did not attend kindergarten and was provided an in-home tutor a few days a week for first grade. On to middle school, it wasn't until I was in the 8th grade that an elevator was installed so we could use the library on the 3rd floor. Move along to high school, it was a newer building, all on one floor, no obvious barriers. However, I will never forget the day that my mother, who worked at the school, told me that my chemistry teacher approached her with a concern. He felt it was unfair to my lab partner because I couldn't reach the table, which impeded me to help. Therefore, he didn't know how he could grade me comparatively. After attending community college and receiving a degree in accounting, I learned how to drive and began looking for employment. My goal was to purchase a used van and have it converted for my needs. Finding a job proved more difficult than I imagined, with offices and bathrooms not fully accessible, tall filing cabinets unreachable, and heavy doors that were impossible to open. Through determination, I found someone who was willing to hire me, a woman business owner, and to her credit, she hired me without the offered incentive of reimbursed wages. It was to be a temporary part-time position during income tax season. Being I didn't yet have a van, as well as the fact that there was a step into the office, my mother would drive me to work, boost me through the door, and come back and pick me up. A permanent position was created, but there were complications. There were more steps in the new office. I told my father, and he said if she bought the materials, he would build a ramp. However, the bathroom did not meet my needs, which required it to be a part-time position. The ramp was built, and I stayed at that job for 3 years, but eventually moved to another job with similar circumstances. And while some would think it was unfair, I was not one to make waves. I was just happy to be normal, getting up every morning, driving to work, being productive, and having enough income to make my van payment. But due to my physical impairments, I've always been dependent on my parents as my caregivers, and for some financial support, therefore living at home. And when my mother started her own business next door to our house, it gave me the ability to stop working elsewhere and contribute to our family business, which was built with my needs in mind. So that's my story, and I consider myself very fortunate. People who do not have a support system and the socioeconomic status that I've had struggle daily to make ends meet and to support themselves and their families. But regardless of socioeconomic status, all people with disabilities encounter barriers every day, and yet we persist. Why? Because we have hope. Yes, we must overcome challenges, but ordinary things and accomplishments do not become extraordinary just because we do them. What is extraordinary are the challenges and barriers we must overcome to do those ordinary things. We know there should be no pity or tragedy in being a person with a disability. It is society's myths, fears, and stereotypes, and the barriers that society creates that causes the difficulties associated with disability. We also have hope because over the years we have witnessed very important and positive change in many areas that improve our lives, including milestones such as the establishment of Medicaid and the passing of Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975, which mandated public schools to provide equal access to children with disabilities. The law has improved and is now known as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And then in 1990, the American with Disabilities Act resulted in tremendous positive change in education, employment, transportation, and overall access. Other improvements have been witnessed in my life for people with all types of disabilities, with closed captioning and telecommunication relay services for the hearing impaired, increase in accessible transportation, athletics such as Special Olympics and Paralympics, audio descriptions and screen readers for the visually impaired, and the growing use of People First language, and so much more. But with all the positive change, there is still work to be done. People with disabilities have the highest rate of unemployment of any minority group. Accessible, affordable housing is hard to come by. And the fact that the United States in 2020 will finally have a system that assists the visually impaired to identify the different paper currency, while many other supposedly less progressive countries were ahead of us in this endeavor, speaks to the lack of priorities in our nation. And there is cause for concern for our future in many areas. A few that stand out to me is the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, the veil that obviously attempts to undermine public education, the new tax law, which will more than likely require cuts to services to people with disabilities, and the recent attack on the civil rights of people with disabilities with the proposed bill, H.R. 620, a bill introduced last year to amend the ADA. Access to affordable health care is something that everyone should have and is critically important to those with disabilities. Many of the issues that people have may be reduced by making sure they have access to quality health care, including preventive health screening. And yet, with the repeal of Affordable Care Act, tax cuts for the wealthy, and the call for a reduction in Medicaid threatens most of the most important programs that enables Americans with disabilities to live independently and to just live. And H.R. 620, titled the ADA Education Reform Act of 2017, which has 104 sponsors for the bill, with 4 just signing on last week. The main objective of this bill is to protect businesses who are not complying with the ADA by making people with disabilities go through several steps, which allows procrastination and making the necessary changes without fear of litigation. Therefore, they may never comply. And the supporters of this legislation have absolutely no issue with shifting the burden to the people who are supposed to be protected. This goes completely against other civil rights laws that allow individuals to immediately seek relief to gain access. And being my time is limited, if you do not know about this proposed bill, I ask that you research. And remember that businesses must comply with many other complex and detailed laws and have had over 27 years to comply with the ADA. If this bill is passed, people with disabilities could be indefinitely denied access to the same goods and services as all other Americans, and a wait-and-see attitude could become the norm. So I shared with you my personal experiences with physical disability, but I just want to be sure that we do not forget about the people with hearing impairments, visual impairments, mental health conditions, intellectual, developmental, and cognitive impairments. And to those that do not have a disability, never forget that you are only an accident or sudden illness away from becoming disabled. Or over time, you may become impaired in some way due to a chronic disease or simply from aging. With our aging population outliving previous generations, those numbers are quickly increasing, not only with issues such as dementia, but because people are living longer, they may need daily care. And in closing, people with disabilities are ordinary individuals who want to live ordinary lives. Women with disabilities are your mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. People with disabilities are more like people without disabilities than we are different, and we make substantial contributions that enrich society. So we ask that you help us continue to bring down barriers and help us resist the powers that be who want to work against our rights. We ask that you stay vigilant and help us maintain our rights, which ultimately are your rights too. And let's continue to work together to ensure that all women's rights, which are human rights, are not diminished and work for a better future for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Shauna O'Toole is founder of the nonprofit We Exist Coalition of the Finger Lakes, dedicated to outreach for the transgender, gender-expansive community in the greater Finger Lakes region. Shauna's background is in the physical sciences, previously serving as an industrial technician, engineer, and classroom teacher. Currently a Wegmans employee, she volunteers with the Rochester Area Out Alliance, coordinating programming for the age 35 and over transgender community. Please join me in welcoming Shauna O'Toole.
Thank you. Let me ask first, and feel free feel safe to not answer? How many brothers, sisters, and siblings do I have in the transgender, gender expansive community? Can I hear you? So good afternoon. My name is Shauna Marie O'Toole, and I am the director of the We Exist Coalition of the Finger Lakes. We do outreach for the transgender, gender expansive community here in the Greater Finger Lakes area. Now being the director of We Exist FLX is one of the things that I am known for, but it's not the only identity that I have. Here, let me give you some examples of identities that affect my life as a woman. First off, I'm a mom to an incredible 21-year-old young man. I'm the big sister to 2 siblings. I'm a daughter in which my parents were still alive to join with me and to share all the adventures I've been having. I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, I'm a classroom teacher, outreach educator, public speaker, author, I'm an advocate and an ally. My students used to ask, Miss O'Toole, is there anything you haven't done? I look at it and say, I'm not sure. I'm also a pilot and I held the rank of captain in the Civil Air Patrol, which was the civilian auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force. Now those are the easy identities. There are a few others that are a little bit more dicey. I'm also a lesbian. That means I am sexually attracted to some other women. And while many in the heteronormative world have their best gay friend, best lesbian friend, there are still places here in the United States where if I had a photograph of my girlfriend on my desk, I could get fired. Or if I walked down hand in hand with my girlfriend, it could invite violence of the worst kind. And as I'm sure you've already gathered, there's one other identity, one I'm very proud of. And that's the fact that I am transgender, male and female. What this means is that I have always thought of myself as female, regardless of how my body developed. So yes, I was born this way. Now, acceptance for my people is growing. But with this administration, we have seen a rising level of hatred and fear. There are those who hate us, don't understand us, and because of that, were assaulted, raped, wounded, and killed. 2/3 of my people will be either physically or sexually assaulted at least once in their lifetime. In 2017, statistically, there were almost 400,000 of us who were physically assaulted, 300,000 who were sexually assaulted. There are some who dismiss us because we just haven't accepted the fact that we're effeminate men. I'm sorry, I'm not a man. I've never seen myself as one. And there are those who preach hatred, that we are pretenders. We are here to rape and assault other women, that we are robbing women of their private spaces, personal spaces, that we don't understand the struggle women, real women, have, or that we don't really understand what it's like to be under the thumb of male privilege. We don't understand it. Who better than someone who is transgender, whether it be male to female, female to male, or even somewhere in between on the spectrum, to understand what male privilege is. When I transitioned, I surrendered every I had, save race, to be authentic. Race is one that you can't surrender. But if it cost that, I would have. Being authentic is that powerful and that important. So what this means is that every degree, every accomplishment, every certificate, every award, every license, my passport, my birth certificate, mean nothing because I'm transgender. Now, I chose to be a citizen here. I was born up north, yes, with dual citizenship, but I have my U.S. citizenship papers. I'm proud to be a U.S. citizen until recently. And we are not protected by any federal law. We're not protected by any New York State law. Oh yes, there are a couple executive orders here and there. But what can be written in can be written out. And we have seen that with this administration. And even though we are not protected by law, we are coming out by the thousands. We are standing proud, we are standing tall. Here in New York State, there are at least 200,000 of us. 200,000. Here in the Greater Finger Lakes area, at least 15,000 of us. Across the United States, 3 million. 10% of us, 300,000 of us, are military vets, most of whom have done some of the most dangerous duty out there. I've met Marine Recon, Navy SEALs, Green Beret, Blue Beret. I've met Special Forces from other nations. Anything to try and prove ourselves manly man. Obviously it didn't work. And 15,000 of us are presently serving in the armed forces. We are here, I know. We are here, we have always been here. We are not going away. We exist. And we, like every other minority, are fighting for our right to live. Our fight is the fight for equality and justice, not just for my people, but for every woman and every minority, and the all people. And I want to emphasize this. Our fight is not just for white women. Our fight is for black women. Our fight is for brown women. We fight for Latinos, Asian women, Native American, First Nation women. We fight for Muslims, Hindus, Jewish, Indian, Christian women. We fight for those with different abilities and those who are mentally challenged. We fight for all Americans and all foreign residents, be you documented or undocumented. We fight for the reason is simple. The transgender community, my people, and I call us my people because we are so maligned by so many groups. We intersect every race, every culture, every socio-economic group in the world. There's one last identity I'm going to share with you. Now, I have been called a warrior for my people. And presently, my people, like several other groups, are in the crosshairs of this president and this administration. Even more so now because it is becoming illegal for medical personnel to deny us treatment because of their religious beliefs. How many of us, be you trans, gender expansive, LGBTQ, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, Native American, whatever, white, black, brown, Hispanic, Latino, will die because we go against someone's religious beliefs. This is unacceptable. More than ever, we need to join together. To quote Dr. Benjamin Franklin, We must surely hang together, or we shall surely hang separately. We cannot afford to. One of the rules I found was Rule 89. Yes, it's actually written down, it's actually published. Rule 89 is simple. There are times you have to draw a line in the sand. There are times you have to be on that line. And there are times you are a line of one. And what I see right here are my sisters, brothers, and siblings standing on this line saying no to injustice, no to inequality, that we are all going to fight together to make America what it has always wanted to be, but never has been. A land of life, liberty, and the ability to pursue happiness with justice and equality for all.
Michelle Casey proudly joins us today as President and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York. Overseeing a robust health system which serves more than 30,000 patients annually, multiple education and youth programs, and a sexual assault services program. She has over 30 years' experience in health and human services and is a proud champion of human rights. She is speaking today on women's reproductive rights.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you. Thank you for showing up. You've made a decision to be here today and stand in this community and to feel like what it's like to be a part of being active in change. 2017 was a remarkable year. As Planned Parenthood celebrated a milestone anniversary of 100 years, it is an unprecedented time where women are demanding nothing less than full equality and control over their bodies. In the halls of Congress, at work, at school, at home, and in society. We saw and continue to see a pivotal moment of powerful men being held accountable for their actions, in addition to a heightened public awareness about the fundamental rights of women and men being able to control their future. Some politicians still keep trying to impose their beliefs on voters to attack healthcare and bodily autonomy. Each time the attacks on individual freedoms and healthcare intensify, the resistance and call for opposition rises to meet them, and thank you for that. Many politicians are not turning into the Me Too movement and the larger conversation in this country's been having over how to treat women equally. Anti-women's health majorities in the House and Senate in the Trump-Pence administration are signaling they will continue their assault on women's health and rights in 2018. Looking forward, we have a lot of work to continue doing. Here are some key things to look at in 2018 on the federal level. The attacks on Planned Parenthood health centers will mostly shift from Congress. There were 6 votes in 2017 that we effectively defeated. So again, thank you. With the election of Doug Jones, a Democrat in Alabama, you heard that right. Republicans no longer have the votes necessary to defund Planned Parenthood in Congress, which would prohibit Medicaid patients from coming to Planned Parenthood centers for care, which is crazy, right? Like, oh my God. Unfortunately, the Trump-Pence administration still has a number of mechanisms at its disposal to undermine millions of women's access to health care at Planned Parenthood health centers. Most notably, attacks on the Title X program, which helps women who don't have the money to pay for care to get care. The HHS political leadership is widely expected to take administrative action in the near future to interfere with access to basic health care under Title X, such as birth control, STI and HIV services, and cancer screenings, because it's so controversial. Essential safety net programs like Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security are on the menu in 2018. At the end of 2017, Congress passed tax legislation that will radically increase the deficit, providing anticipated justification for making significant cuts to the social safety net programs. Medicaid provides insurance coverage to 1 in 5 women of reproductive age and more than 16 million women aged 19 to 64. An attack on the program would undermine equitable access for health care. The result would create a public health crisis. In New York alone, 53% of the births that happen in this state are funded under the Medicaid program. Opponents of abortion will advance abortion bans despite the small chance of passing any into law. Monday is the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Let me emphasize that the right to safe legal abortion does not matter if there is not access to services. Since 2010, we have seen nearly 400 restrictions on abortion across this country. 90% of counties lack an abortion-providing clinic. This is not acceptable. At the state level, we must act in New York. We have the opportunity to pass critical legislation. Here's what we are focusing on. There's the Comprehensive Contraception Coverage Act. Say that 3 times fast. All right. CCCA. The act, the average woman spends about 30 years of their life trying to prevent pregnancy. I know, it's crazy, right? Trying to take a pill every day accurately for that period of time. The use of contraception reduces unintended pregnancy and abortion. Contraception allows women to gain economic independence and to lead meaningful lives. Please call your elected officials and tell them to bring the CCCA to the floor for a vote, including emergency contraception. That has to be codified into New York state law. Right now there's an executive order, and we've seen what happens with executive orders when there is regime change. This year again, we call for Roe v. Wade to be codified into state law. We want it in the New York State Constitution so that every woman will continue to have access to Women need and should be trusted to have personal autonomy over their bodies and their lives. Trust women. Make it known that you want Roe v. Wade codified into New York state law. We must work together to pass other meaningful legislation in New York that protects human rights, like the Comprehensive Sexuality Education legislation, the DREAM Act, which allows undocumented immigrants in New York to apply for state college tuition assistance. Gender, which prohibits discrimination based on gender identity or expression. Pregnant inmates. That's just a portion of our focus. Yeah. There's more. I know you want to be the change makers. Here's what we're asking you to do. Understand the issues. Work to destigmatize abortion. Understand why and who gets abortions. Shed your judgment. Planned Parenthood has a lot of resources on this, and we can help with the conversation. Lift up the importance of contraception. Push it into daily conversation. It really impacts all of us. Let's talk about it. Talk to people, especially people who don't agree with you, even if it hurts. Listen to women. Believe women. Let people speak their truth. Especially listen to women of color. Every barrier that we talk about is a bigger barrier for women of color. We need to look at systemic racism and what we're doing to be a part of that and how we can break down those barriers. Be inclusive. No matter gender, race, sexual orientation, immigration status, identity, we are a community, and when one of us is not free, none of us is free. Participate in voter action, canvass, speak out, rally, go door to door, go to churches, speak at your PTA, vote, maybe even run for office. You are important, your voice really matters. It's already changed 2017. Keep pounding the pavement. As the CEO of Planned Parenthood, please let me say that we are in solidarity with every person, organization, and her sister that is smashing through the glass ceiling. Breaking down barriers and speaking truth to power. We must continue on this path to make true and lasting change. When women thrive, we all thrive. Free birth control, evidence-based sex ed, maternal health, teaching consent, paid family leave, paying a living wage. We know these are essential to a thriving and happy economy, society, and world. Every day I have the pleasure of leading an organization that takes care of 1 in 5 women in this country. I know looking out at this crowd, there are countless patients and supporters amongst us. It is with a deep sense of gratitude that I say thank you for standing with Planned Parenthood. Your power is endless. Let's keep this pivotal work up so the next 100 years we can write a new story for women.
Thank you, Michelle. Juanita Perez-Williams is a lifelong public advocate committed to service. She is the granddaughter of Mexican migrant farm workers who gave her the passion to fight injustice against the poor and vulnerable. Overcoming her own personal hardships, Juanita graduated from law school, dedicating her career to government service. She previously served as a naval lieutenant commander, Assistant New York State Attorney General, Adjunct Professor at Syracuse University, and Syracuse City Corporation Council. Most recently, Juanita ran for mayor of the city of Syracuse, where she won her primary race, but lost in the general election. Juanita is on a mission to help end systemic racism and sexism, combat poverty, rejuvenate neighborhoods, and protect our youth. She currently is an attorney in the city of Syracuse. I give you Juanita Perez.
Good afternoon, my persisters! I am so honored to be here today and so proud to be making history with you today. I don't have to tell any of you in the room, my sisters, that racism and sexism and misogyny are alive in this country and around this world. And we need to continue fighting this fight as we come together today. after what I saw last November that I had to get into this battle. And so while it was not easy, I decided to jump into the political battlefield. And although I did not win my race, I will go down in history, herstory, as the first Latina to win a mayoral primary in the top 5 cities in New York State. But this revolution continues. I will not give up. And I will ensure those that were with me and followed this race and all that happened in this race continues. And we continue to inspire the women, the many of women of color who woke up to see their own power and what we could do. The reality is that racism and sexism are throughout this country, in the boardroom, at the gym, in politics. I felt it, I heard it, and it was amazing that it was happening in 2018. But I want to make sure that my voice today is for all those women, women of color too, especially, who would never have an opportunity to be in a room such as this, to be with us. Because they're mopping floors, they're picking grapes, and they're in places none of us could fathom. And they'll never have a voice. And their dreams will only remain dreams. And that's why we do this, for those women, and we must continue this fight. It's not like there isn't enough material in the news today on the issues of sexism and racism, thanks to our very stable genius of a president. And while his words are shocking and hurtful, I will tell you that many women of color are not surprised that we have a leader like this today. We see these leaders. We hear them. They are men. They are women. They are our bosses. They are around us. So we know what that feels like. We know what it's all about. The other day, I saw a tweet asking facetiously, when did you know that 45 was a racist? Was it when he called all Mexicans rapists? When he banned all Muslims? When he pardoned Joe Arpaio? Or when he called poor black countries shitholes? I knew it. The same can be asked, when did you know that this fearless leader was a sexist? Day one. On a bus with Billy Bush? When he called women fat pigs and dogs? Or when he said that women should be punished for having abortions? I knew it. We have to come to grips with the fact that this president is not only a sexist and a racist, but that his hate-filled rhetoric is meant to divide us. Man against woman, woman against women, white women against women of color. That's what it is meant to do, and we must not forget that. A survey of 2016 voters concluded that people who voted for this fearless leader, 45, was not because of individual or community or national economic distress. It's because people were scared when they heard about immigration, when they heard about a diverse, growing society, when they heard about inclusivity, and they voted out of fear. I knew it, and so did many of you. These are just the many reasons that we must stand together. Because I will tell you, in a race in 2017 for mayor, it was all around me. Many of the sentiments that we saw at the national level were at the local level. And although I recognized it, that there were others that did not. Voters were told with the knocks on their door that because I am Hispanic, I was going to allow unlimited numbers of undocumented people into our city. Wow. The fear was there. That as a woman, I lacked the temperament to hold public office, notwithstanding my 6 years serving honorably as a naval officer. And that's because I am divorced, albeit for wonderfully grown children and a beautiful grandson. Somehow this implied a sort of deficit or flaw in my character. Oh, wow. These were just some of the insidious tactics used against me, and are used all the time against women, especially women of color. And make no mistake, they are intended to undermine and disparage candidates. So how do we stop this? How do we dispel these fears, this hate that is all around? Well, I was very delighted to hear Oprah Winfrey talk about this recently. You heard her. She said it starts with speaking your truth. Your truth about how you have felt marginalized by people in power, whether at work, in the community, wherever you are, that we must speak our truth, no matter how difficult it is. And the Me Too movement is the greatest example to date of people starting to speak their truths, showing others we're not alone, we're in this together. But I will tell you, in my own race, I knew that this truth needed to come out. And so I spoke this truth. I went out there and I talked about who I am, where I came from, and wanted voters to know my story, never realizing that in 2017 there would be tactics used against me, detracting from my own qualifications and my own efforts, and just to focus on the color of my skin and the voice that I have. So I tell all of you, don't give up. I didn't give up. On the last debate that we had, just a few days before the general election, I found hope. I found hope with my Republican female opponent, who could have ignored what was happening to me. But to her credit, and perhaps a reason why she too lost that race, she stood up on live TV and pointed out to our male opponent what was happening and the remarks that were being said, and that they were being said to undermine a woman candidate. And to her, I applaud standing up like we need to do. So yes, we need to tell our stories, but more than that, if we can't tell our story, or perhaps we don't feel as though we have one, know that there are people out there. Get behind them. Recognize that story. Be with them. Don't let them do it alone. Stand with them and let them know how proud we all are. Look, we're not always going to agree. We're not going to be on the same political side. But human dignity must come before have to agree, but just stand up. Stand up for women. We stand at the birthplace of the women's rights movement. And we celebrate how women before us have had the courage to fight for basic human rights. We are the beneficiaries of those efforts. But the question now for us is, how will history judge us? Will we stand still and watch how other women fall? Or will we stand with them, help them get up, and together move forward? I say we can do it. I say we do it together. We get in that battle and we win. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juanita. At 1 o'clock, there is a moment of silence that people around the world are taking to just acknowledge one another as we all stand here in solidarity to stand for our freedoms and our equal rights. It's 2 minutes to 1. I would prefer to do it now so we don't interrupt our next speaker. So can we all just take a moment of silence in honor of what we're doing here, to stand up for our freedoms and equal rights for all. Thank you. Nadia Sharam is a practicing attorney and mediator in Western New York and is the president and founder of the Coalition for the Advancement of Muslim Women. Ms. Sharam serves on the board of the Family Justice Center of Erie County and is an advocate for immigrants and refugees residing in Buffalo. She is speaking with us today on immigrant rights in America.
It is with great honor that I'm standing here before you on this day of protest, marching, and standing together with my sisters and some brothers. In unity for justice. We are also here in celebration of our collective strength and voice. We are currently living extremely surreal and tumultuous times for our nation, and I can't help but to also feel solidarity with my sisters in Iran who are fighting battles for basic human rights. My short talk today focuses on immigration in this country. But it is also a comment and a reminder on the basic fabric of our great, incredible nation of United States. Make America great again, he said. The America that I experienced and lived as an immigrant is and will continue to be great. Yeah. I immigrated from one of the 6 nations that currently is banned from entering this country, Iran. Our great America is built on immigrant and immigration. These are the people who built this great nation. The America that I know is inclusive, compassionate, generous, and welcoming. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That is the America that I have grown to love and respect. My America welcomed me as a teenager with open arms. The woman that I have become today is the result of that generosity, the opportunities and experiences, many of which are not available to my sisters in Iran and other places. If we are going to call ourselves the greatest nation in the world, then we should be up to that. And that includes a moral standard and human dignity. Our immigration policy needs to reflect such beliefs. In my own experience, I was able to attend a university and go to law school. I was able to start a business as well as a law firm. I was given the freedom of expression and was able to write a book. I have had the opportunity to freely travel around the world. These are all experiences that I may not have had if I was denied access to this country. I now work in my community in Buffalo, helping refugee families and women. And my story is not unique. America is filled with success stories from millions of immigrants who are protective and contributing members of their communities. The idea that the president is repealing DACA is maddening. The idea of building a wall is absurd. That is not the America that I know. We have gone off the path of greatness. Let us get back to being a nation of equality of justice, and we can only do these actions through what we are doing here today.
Karen King is the Executive Director of the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women, which works to provide meaningful information and resources to the women and girls of Erie County and to ensure they participate fully in matters that have an impact on their lives. Dr. King has served as an adjunct graduate faculty member in the Higher Education Student Affairs Administration program at Buffalo State College and in the Graduate School of Education at the University of Buffalo. Dr. King's research interests include examining how gender, race, class, and popular culture impact women's and girls' identity development. She is here today to share insight on a woman's right to economic justice in America.
Hello, Persisters! I want to thank all of my Persister fellow speakers who are continuing to speak truth to power. And there's one thing we know for sure. Patriarchy, misogyny, You got to go. You like numbers? You like numbers? Here are some numbers to think about. 55, the number of years since JFK signed the Equal Pay Act in 1963. 89, while New York has the smallest pay gap of any state in the nation, white women earn 89 cents on the dollar. 85, 66, 50. Women of color earn even less. New York's Asian Americans, African Americans, and Hispanic and Latino women are paid 85 cents, 66 cents, and 50 cents, respectively, for every dollar earned by white non-Hispanic males. 77. Women in New York earn less per dollar than men, while 77% of single-parent families in New York are headed by women, and these single mother families represent the largest number of families living in poverty in every region of New York State. 50. More than 50% of minimum wage workers in New York are women. It's been more than 50 years since President Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act, yet women continue to make less than their male counterparts. A persistent phenomenon that cannot be entirely explained by disparities in education, opportunity, or childbearing. The gender pay gap may differ by year, location, and ethnicity, but it is persistent. The gender pay gap has hovered between 80 and 50% for nearly 2 decades. Most of the discrepancy is because men work in high-paying fields, in more lucrative fields, and most of the policy remedies have focused on encouraging women to pursue those same high-paying fields with a particular focus on STEM jobs. Women make up half of the U.S. total population, women make up half the total U.S. college-educated workforce, but only 29% of the science and engineering workforce. We are told to lean in. We are told to negotiate. Don't leave money on the table. While I agree those are important skills, but there is much more to this story.
That's right.
In 2017, the Me Too movement has given voice to the long-standing prevalence of sexual harassment in the workplace. As a result, the mainstream press has also given some recent attention to a body of research that points to an under-examined cause of the pay gap. Women make less because of the sexual harassment they face at work. Some recent academic research focuses on the relationship between sexual harassment and the gender wage gap. In a 2017 study entitled The Economic and Career Effects of Sexual Harassment on Working Women, researchers found sexual harassment increases financial stress, largely by precipitating job change, and can significantly alter women's career attainment. Specifically, the study found that women who reported having been sexually harassed at work were 6.5 times more likely to change jobs compared to women who had not been harassed. And often the change was not to a higher salary or a more prestigious profession. The negative effects that can accompany such a job change were often found to follow women throughout the rest of their career. Hostile, toxic workplace environments for women have contributed to the persistent wage gap in several ways, including financial stress, occupational gender segregation, losing human capital, the ability to get a reference from an employer, a manager, or a colleague, and lack of seniority at your new job, which limits earning growth and increases vulnerability of layoffs and career instability. Understanding exactly how harassment affects earning power isn't easy because abuse is notoriously underreported, especially at the professional and managerial levels. And at the same time, jobs and fields that are dominated by women and considered safer because there are less men in them also usually pay less. According to the Institute for Women's Policy Research, occupational gender segregation continues to be a strong feature of the U.S. labor market. Among the 502 occupations identified by the Census Bureau,
The report suggests that progress towards occupational segregation was made in the occupational integration was made in the 1970s and 1980s, but that virtually no more progress can be observed since the mid-1990s. According to the report, there are two reasons why stark occupational segregation should be a concern to policymakers. Socialization in relation to gender norms continues to influence men and women's average preferences and behaviors. Much of these patterns reflect barriers to entry to occupations ranging from lack of information about alternative job options to active discouragement and harassment. A second reason for concern is the link between occupational segregation and gender inequality in earnings. Full-time employed women, on average, earn less than their male counterparts, and 104 of the 108 occupations for which the Bureau of Labor Statistics provides earning data for both male and female workers. This suggests that the gender wage gap is almost a universal feature of the labor market, regardless of where women work, regardless. At the same time, female-dominated occupations have been shown to pay less than male-dominated occupations at the same skill level. This implies that even if there is a gender wage gap within all occupations, women must be able to increase their absolute earnings by choosing to train for work in occupations with higher shares of male workers. Well, guess what happens? Conversely, while higher shares of male workers may mean higher wages for women, it will also increase the opportunity for greater incidents of sexual harassment. So, the proverbial catch-22, what do we do here? Legislation, policy, those are all important components that we have to continue fighting for. But we must eradicate misogyny from our work cultures. And this is a long game, folks. So don't be fooled, and I don't mean to disparage any of the programs that encourage us to lean in or negotiate or leave, or don't leave money on the table. Those are very popular programs. But many of the women out there in the workforce do not have the luxury of negotiation. They're minimum wage workers. They're undocumented workers. They're not making enough money, and they do not have the clout to speak for themselves. The workplace continues to be a hostile environment that has to end. So it's such an honor to be with all of you today. Continue that fight. Demand that harassment and toxicity be eradicated from our workplaces.
Women March, Seneca Falls 2018 is coming to an end. There are a couple of speakers left, and then people are meandering, making their ways into Seneca Falls and kind of coming together to talk, to share the experience, and to try to decide where to go from here. We had a little problem broadcasting live, in case you aren't aware. When the government shut down at midnight, our live feed went with it, because our live feed was connected to the National Hall of Fame, and it is under the rule of the National Park Service. And when the government shut down, the National Park Service shut down in some areas, and one of the areas is the Hall of Fame, the National Park Service Hall of Fame for women. So we did not have a live feed. We did the best we could at trying to get it to you. We have videoed as we're doing this, and we will post it on Western New York Media. And tomorrow we will be at the Women's Solidarity March, Western New York, and with all God willing, we will be live and bring it to you then. So if you're watching this, thank you for watching. Thank you, GCW Capital Group, for sponsoring this important event. It was a tremendous day with thousands of people celebrating and coming forward to say we need change and we can be the change. So we will be tomorrow at the Women's Solidarity Western New York, and we'll see you then. This is Christine Abt for Western New York Media.